Oh, change the channel.
Oh, hell no.
We interrupt your regular programming to bring you Finite Unlimited, a new broadcast to you about the most recent episode of RWBY. Top level stuff. So let's get right into it. I am the narrator.
And I am the good.
Otherwise known as the director of Finite Unlimited and
I completely forgot.
the thinker. We use code names. And we are just one of many, apparently.
We are the
We are
collective.
one of many.
We are many. We are one and we are many.
That's an Australian thing as well. Look it up.
Look it up.
So we are not actually American like most of those who've actually watched us. We are Australian. Let's just get that out there. And no, that does not mean we often say crikey mate. Or
we drink Forbes.
or that.
Fosters,
In fact, neither of us drink.
No.
I'm sorry we've alienated most of our audience by saying that, but stick with us. We have some interesting thoughts.
And there goes any deal with Rooster Teeth. Yeah, it's otherwise.
Absolutely. Please be merciful. Anyway, most recently at the time of this video, episode 5 of RWBY has been released. We are actually a couple days late on it, but we're now finally getting to our review, and luckily, at the time of this release, we have got the upcoming update for episode 6, so we got a few hints about what's actually coming up. So this will hopefully give any thoughts we have some more, what do we call it?
Airtime.
Credit, I think, yes. Alright, so let's get started with, well, first of all, why is Team Cardinal in the tournament? Are they really any good? Like they didn't even choose Carden. They chose two of their lesser members, Skylark and Russell Thrush, whom we had to look up the names of to make sure who they were.
Yeah, they're nameless.
Yeah, they like originally when we were thinking about Team Cardinal in Volume 2, I think we were thinking that they were going to be sort of the bad guy team, but they were also going to be at least one of the best teams that would be wiped out eventually.
Yeah.
But they seem to be more the joke team that are just smashed by the more important characters like Penny, who is really more the focus of that. If you want a greater analysis of that whole fight, we advise you to go see Jake One Man Band's review on the episode. He's going to be covering, well, he has covered, more of the battle, statistics, and elements. We're more interested in the plot and what we can discern from what we've seen. So let's just establish that Penny's pretty good. She's an android designed for combat, so she's probably expected to be. And her teammate is just there to keep the time.
I don't have a watch on, but keep the time.
She's really useless. Yeah, a watch. Anyway, so we know that her name is CL Salil, I believe. And first thing she says to RWBY is establish that Atlas has a profile on her. That's kind of creepy.
And the way she said it so inanely, like she didn't even care that she was just saying it.
And
straight to her
monotone.
face. Yeah.
Like, we know that Jake One Man Band says that she's probably not a robot, but
She talks like one.
she talks like one. She's very monotone. Like, just because Ironwood doesn't want many people to know that Penny's a robot, also maybe wants to see whether putting Penny with a robot establishes whether they actually discover that the other one is. Like, do two robots in the same unit actually discover that the other one is? Maybe it's like a social experiment with robots to see whether they can hide agents amongst even their own kind, sort of thing.
And we never saw her, what was her name again? I forgot.
CL Salil.
Seal. We never see her actually in combat, so we don't know.
She probably doesn't even fight for all we know.
Yeah, we don't know if she is an android, if she's a combat android.
Yeah. And maybe she's not even a combat. Like, I don't know. Based on the way she talks and the fact that she made it very well aware to RWBY that she has a profile on her, probably says that she's not that good at her job.
Yes.
Don't tell your targets that you have a profile on them, especially given that she said her status was questionable. That's not a wise thing to tell people that you're sort of curious about, unless Atlas is just that far up themselves. Which they could be.
Barred with impunity they are.
Exactly. So, there's that, and clearly Penny and Ruby's relationship has become a lot more close, even though they don't talk much. But they're very friendly. And I think we're starting to really get a real bond with Penny at the moment.
Mm.
And I think this is the beginning of the end.
Oh no.
Whatchya say? That you only meant well, 'cause you did.
Please no.
Affectionate. I've just said your name.
Did? That's fine. We'll just roll with it.
In all fairness, my name. Anyway, yes, Penny. This might be the beginning of the end for her. Mostly because she's talking about staying at Beacon, that she has a plan for it. And I think the thing that really got me is that she said, "I'll talk to you about it another time." Do you know how many series today are starting to make it so that when characters say, "I'll talk to you about it another time," or "Oh, well, next time we see each other, we'll tell you about it," or whatever, they always die. Maybe that's what's going to happen next.
Or do something that can't be taken back, like it's
Something like that as well. And
Movement.
I'm a little worried that Penny's being built up for this perhaps hopeful future, but it's going to be taken from her. And we'll address that as we move a little forward. And the other interesting thing is, Ironwood doesn't want people to know that she's a robot. Why? Why does it have to be so secret? Maybe, like, why has he put her in a tournament, but doesn't want her nature known? He can only be putting at her to sort of, I don't know, advertise that Atlas has got the next generation of huntsmen or huntresses where it doesn't need to be human beings.
He does say that he wants to phase out humans on the battlefield using
that's
robots and
Atlas's
drones.
objective.
And making artificial huntsmen, artificial beings that can take the role of huntsmen, seems to be aligned with that.
Perhaps the reason why he's keeping it secret is so that people don't have a bias against her, and that when she wins the tournament, then they'll reveal the truth. And then they'll go, "We're just going to start mass producing."
Or it could be aligned with Cinder's objective of that she could expose them prematurely and cause a sort of incident.
Yeah, perhaps. And we'll get into that just in a moment, because that we had a bit of a reveal later in the episode. One thing I did want to bring up before we get to that is that it seems that some of the teams that are going into the doubles round, or have gone into the doubles round, don't really seem to work well together. Like we had in the most recent fight with Weiss and Yang as a team. Weiss is a lot more of a disciplined fighter, while Yang's more of a brawler.
Yes.
It seems a bit odd to put them together, since they would say that they wouldn't work well in cohesion, I suppose. And we could see that was sort of used against them in their fight.
Yes.
And I think we had the same thought with Coco and Yatsuhashi from Team Coffee. You know, Coco being a long-range heavy hitter and Yatsuhashi being a close-range heavy hitter. No agility.
Yeah.
But I think there's a bit of a bias in there, because honestly, those team combinations are really only good if they're pitted against a team where that's their weakness. So.
And they don't elaborate whether the chosen two is known to everyone else. So there's no way to predict who you're going to go against.
Exactly. It's meant to be random.
Yeah.
Which, of course, isn't. It isn't.
By Cinder.
No one knows that Cinder's doing it.
Yeah.
But I suppose, like, maybe that's why Cinder has rigged the selection in their favour, so that they could intentionally pit them against those that they would be weak. Emerald and Mercury would be good against, and other teams would suck against. As we could see, Emerald and Mercury pretty much had that game won from the beginning. Yeah. It was virtually victory from the beginning, so not good news for Team Coffee, especially given when we were first introduced to them. They were pretty kick-ass.
Yeah, they were.
Tore Nevermore's in half.
Yeah, they're definitely the upperclassmen, the elite upperclassmen.
Yeah. For a while, it made us doubt that Team RWBY was at all that good. And they only just barely won their match, so we'll see what happens in episode 6. But back to Penny, I suppose. Cinder has discovered that she's in fact an Atlas weapon. And more importantly, and I think most commentators have missed this, she's also discovered something called the M374. Now, those of us who are fans of Red vs. Blue will perhaps get this reference. First thing I did was Google search it, and I found myself on the Red vs. Blue wiki. M374 is a reference to the meta, or rather, his armor. Now, what does that mean?
Well, we know what the meta is.
We know what the meta is. Crazy guy. So, this armor is probably in the same line with what the meta's armor was in the series. It's probably pimped out. Probably very high quality. And it made us think maybe that was the real reason Winterschnee was sent to escort military equipment to Beacon. The M374, as we can see, is being put in the same category as Penny. That's pretty high top secret.
Yeah.
That's pretty sophisticated. So the M374 is perhaps one of Atlas's more sophisticated weapons. And perhaps it's meant to be used by Ironwood himself or someone else.
Probably something like an exosuit, like Iron Man suit, I would say.
Yeah, sort of like Iron Man's suit. We'll have to wait and see what happens with that. But when we first talked about Penny in this tournament, you said that it was possible that Penny could be hacked. I was a bit hesitant about it. I thought to myself that Penny is too sophisticated to be hacked. But based on what we've seen so far, it doesn't seem that there is much internet security or anything like that. Like, a firewall hasn't stopped Cinder from, getting access to the databases. What's to say that there is no real sophisticated cybersecurity to keep hacking from taking place?
Yeah, because they infiltrated Beacon.
That's right.
Network, and then they infiltrated Ironwood's personal PDA, which links into Atlas's military. So basically, she has access to both and could do anything really. There's seemed to be no shown limit to the Black Queen virus at the moment.
It really is looking like she's already won. We're just waiting for this play to begin. Like,
the stage is set.
It doesn't look like Ozpin or Ironwood or anyone's really on top of what she's got going for her right now. She's got access to every bit of military information they have. There's only one thing that they don't have. What Ozpin knows. And this is where we get to the Guardian. At the end, near the end of the episode, like, we weren't expecting this much important stuff to be in this episode. But, Crow comes in and says, "Oh, well, Ironwood's making you look like a fool." Ozpin insists that Ironwood has his heart in the right place, but we've got a video coming up where we think we have an idea as to what Ironwood's really motivated by. It's still seemingly good intentions, but it can have massive effects on the future of the Remnant world. But we'll get to that another time. The important thing is that Crow asks Ozpin, "Have you chosen a Guardian yet?" And this is the part which really irritated us, because what Ozpin said wasn't entirely clear. Like, Jake, in his video, and I hope you go watch him as well, if you haven't already, that he thinks that Ozpin said they must choose themselves. But when we listen to it, we never hear anything like the words "they must." Like, it took Jake to slow down the video to hear that, and I think that's just muddled up. I think he must have said one of two things that we've come up with. The most universally accepted one is maidens. Maidens choose themselves. Or, as we heard at one point, because we didn't hear the "m" sound, we heard Aidens. So we just Google searched Aidens to see what came up. What we did find is Aden is a city in Turkey, and is also a name, a Turkic name. When we looked up what it meant, it said it means bright and enlightened. Two of these meanings, I think, actually have relevance to the Guardian position.
Which we have still no idea what that is.
We really don't know what it does, but this might be a hint. Bright as in, the Guardian is a very skilled warrior, or perhaps just a very intelligent or useful or skillful individual. And enlightened might mean that the Guardian holds a certain knowledge that most people don't have. And when Ozpin's talking about the person that he suggests is the right person to be Guardian, when he was describing them, didn't you think like we did, that he was actually talking about RWBY? But then we have Pyrrha on screen. Now, based on what we've seen for the lead up to the next episode, we certainly know that it was Pyrrha that he was talking about. which makes us think, especially if you've watched our theory, and if you haven't, we encourage you to go watch our theory, because we're making a lot of our assumptions and our sort of dot points connect to that theory. The reason why you didn't choose RWBY is because they don't need RWBY to be a protector. They need RWBY to be protected. She's important. And maybe one of the reasons they're choosing a new Guardian now is because they need someone to look out for her, even if they don't know exactly why or particularly who. They just need to protect people as a whole, and they need to be aware that someone's being targeted.
And Pyrrha's in a very fortuitous position because of her relationship with her team, with Juniper and RWBY.
That's right.
Team Juniper. They're basically already friends. So being in the vicinity, protecting her in secret, isn't obtrusive.
Right. And Pyrrha clearly is a very skilled individual. She was stated to have won many tournaments before coming to the Vital Festival. So it's almost weird that she's still attending Academy. Like, if she's that good. Maybe that was just part of the cover. Maybe she was already going there just for the purpose of being chosen as the Guardian. Now, some people had commented in previous videos made by us asking who Autumn is. What we do know is that Autumn is someone that Ozpin and his circle know about, and that this person has been rendered incapable because of whatever condition has been put upon them, presumably by Cinder. Now, we said we might have an idea as to who Autumn is. One question we want to ask is, why only now are they choosing a Guardian? Is it because Autumn was the Guardian?
Or a Guardian.
Or a Guardian. And now that she's been removed from play, they have to choose someone else to take her place. But a lot of other commentators have pointed this out. When Pyrrha got on the elevator, the smile she had didn't seem characteristic of her nice and soft personality. It seems that it's Neo. Now, some people argue it's Cinder, but it must be Neo, and here are a couple of reasons. One, the semblance is quite clearly illusion. There is no hint whatsoever that Cinder has this semblance. But it's clear that Neo might have, because when we first met Neo, she managed to get Roman Torchwick, who is, by the way, one of my favourite characters, out of a difficult situation after confronting Team RWBY and part of Team Sun. The moment she appeared, she was blocking an attack by Yang with her umbrella, and they appeared to be having a conversation after that, during which, when Yang had lost her patience, it essentially went and struck them. Now, I want you to have a quick look at that scene. The moment Yang strikes Neo, she immediately changes back to the position she had the moment she actually intervened. It seems that the moment Neo actually intervened, she cast an illusion. Them talking was actually just fake and was just distracting them while they really got away. So I think based on that, we can establish that Neo, her semblance is illusion. And that may be how she got away from Raven as well. Maybe she just used illusion to escape her sight as opposed to teleporting.
Yeah, it looked like she teleported. But it could be just that she looked like she teleported, and then Raven let her guard down because she thought she was gone.
Maybe. She just wasn't interested. Her interest was to protect Yang at the time. Of course, we think that her intentions for protecting Yang are perhaps more selfish.
And less motherly.
And less motherly than you'd think. But, so, if we presume that Neo is then going up to Ozpin's office as Pyrrha, there are a couple ways we can explain this. One, Cinder is in control of Beacon's communications based on CCT and all that. They have access to military and all that. It wouldn't be that much of a stretch for Cinder to intercept a message sent by Ozpin to Pyrrha and instead send Neo in her place. Pyrrha might not even know that she's been called to be Guardian yet. She might just be continuing to go about things as she currently understands them, while Neo is the one who actually holds the knowledge. This is like the final attack or move in the chess game that it's the one thing that Cinder does not have. What Ozpin knows. Now, if you have seen our theory, you might ask, is Ozpin going to tell her everything? Does he know that RWBY has DeRosa's soul? Because he gets up me when I say it wrong. Does he know that RWBY has DeRosa's soul? And if he does, is he going to tell Pyrrha about it? In which case, Neo immediately has in her head the most important information they need, and basically it's like game over from there. But here's the other interesting thing. If Pyrrha keeps going without knowing that she's actually the Guardian, and if Cinder has control of Penny, and they know what Pyrrha's semblance is, they might actually know how to defeat her now. And instead of doing it themselves in a way that might seem controversial to maybe incapacitate a player, like, the game doesn't go that far. You get wounded at worst. But to incapacitate someone or close to killing them, maybe kill them. They could get away with it by arguing that it was Penny's fault, and to the world it'd just be exposed as Atlas's flaw. Like, even Ironwood might be convinced in that scenario that it was Penny's fault. This is why we are convinced something bad's going to happen to her.
Yes, and then because of that, Penny might be closed. What's the word?
Shut down?
Shut down. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Basically.
This is why we are convinced that her future isn't so bright, and that when she said, I'll talk to you later, RWBY, might be the last time they actually have a proper conversation.
Yeah, this went bright, didn't it?
Yeah. And one of the reasons we think Pyrrha's ill-fated as well, and this may be us just speculating too much, but her name, Pyrrha, in many ways it's been drawn in contrast to Pyrrhic victory. It's possible that when Penny is hacked...
You want to explain what Pyrrhic victory means.
Alright. Pyrrhic victory means a victory where the losses on your side are so great that you could barely call it a victory, but your opponent is defeated. We wonder whether what will ultimately define Pyrrha is a victory she had gotten, but one that ultimately all the losses she'd gained from winning overrode her victory. For example, in a fight with Penny where she's hacked, perhaps she goes haywire, it looks like she might be turning on the public. Pyrrha strikes hard and fast, but using Penny, Cinder manages to strike at Pyrrha's semblance, or whatever weakness she has, because Pyrrha is also sort of based on Achilles. She has a weakness. And if Penny or Cinder, as we had said before, had a way to steal semblances, or to damage your semblance, it might have a massive effect on your health. It could have a massive detriment. Pyrrha might actually succeed in defeating Penny if she goes haywire. But what she's left with might actually prevent her from being a huntress. She might be so disabled from having her semblance disabled, or something like that, that she cannot be Guardian. Or she might be rendered comatose, or in the worst case, Pyrrha might be the first death of a character we see on the show. That's worst case scenario.
Yeah.
It hasn't, the show hasn't seemingly got there yet, but I don't think we should presume that no character is going to die, especially ones we love.
In the post Game of Thrones world.
In a post Game of Thrones world. And the other thing of the matter is that, you know, they've been building this relationship between Jean and Pyrrha for some time, and it looked like after the ball, or the dance rather, that they'd get together. And they've been mocking us a little earlier this series when Jean tries to call out a team name for Nora and Lyren. They didn't react, and Pyrrha goes, well, what are we? And you just sort of go like, we're all asking that question. And then Jean goes, Pyrrha, and she goes, sorry, I just want it to be clearly defined. And that is the moment you know the writers are messing with you. Just want it to happen, come on. We're so close, we're so close. But I think one of the only reasons they're drawing it out might be because they intend for that pairing to have a tragic end. That's going to make it the OTP for everyone, especially if it never comes about because Pyrrha dies, or because she spends the rest of the series sort of comatose or something like that. Sort of like in a fairy tale. Which is also mentioned in the lead up to the next episode. When Ospen is talking to Pyrrha, She clearly is shocked by some of the stuff Ozpin says. So clearly we can see that Ozpin is telling her something very shocking. Perhaps he is in fact telling her some vital information. And then one of the bit of dialogue that comes out is Ozpin asking her, what is your favourite fairy tale? Now, Remnant is not the same as our world, so we don't know that they're talking about fairy tales that we know about. But there is one that we do know about, and we referenced it in our theory. The Man with Two Souls. It might be a roundabout way, and I don't think Ozpin is pointing out exactly the significance of this fairy tale, but I think he's mentioning it because, again, maybe the writers are trying to prod the audience into realizing that that's actually very important to the storyline. And it's trying to remind us of the possibility. The one that we thought of. Subscribe to us. Anyway. We think that series might be getting pretty close to touching on some of the stuff that we talked about in our theory video, and it's probably very close to proving at least some of what we said right.
The great reveal.
Otherwise, we're going to be very disappointed. But anyway, it's been good fun doing anyway. But things are heading to a very dark place this season. Again, we responded to a comment recently about whether we thought that this series, this particular volume would be where the excrement hits the ceiling air conditioning unit. Which is a nice way of saying...
shit hits the fan.
That's right. We agree that we think this volume is at least going to begin that process. It's sort of like going to be the cliffhanger, I think. It could be the cliffhanger which the next volume will begin, and that's what's going to kill us the most. And we know Rooster Teeth is known for doing this. They leave us with massive cliffhangers for the future, and I don't think this will be an exception.
No.
So it's going to be a tough year on us once this volume actually does conclude. But maybe this will be the volume where the Grimm do attack and take Vale and Beacon. And our next video that we're going to be doing on the trailers, the original trailers of this series, will actually read a little bit into that. And basically it's going to be asking, is Red Trailer a vision of the future? Now, we'll leave you to think about what that might mean and how that could actually possibly mean anything. But we'll explain that in times to come. So, to wrap up, Pyrrha's in trouble. Penny's in trouble. RWBY doesn't realize she's in trouble. Ozpin and his circle are royally screwed over. Only Cinder's going to win.
Cinder's got the best hand right now. We can see all her cards and they're looking good.
And she's rigging the deck to get all the ones she needs. They don't realize how badly they've lost so far. And it seems more and more that what we said about Cinder creating a circumstance in which the world will have a massive dose of fear is coming together. It's almost a perfect remedy. And because the Vital Festival is such an important global event, what are the chances that the world's leaders, the world's councils, and the world's headmasters will attend the final matches?
Ooh, that's news to me. You haven't spoken that before.
No, but it does make sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It makes sense. And what if part of the plan, and maybe the reason why they're waiting so long, is because not only will they take Atlas's fleet out of commission, which, as we said, would be like watching America's military fall overnight on live television, to watch Obama and Putin and all those wiped out in one stroke.
Aliens.
And watch Beacon and Vale fall to a grim attack. That is like fear on a scale never before seen in Remnant.
And fear will bring the Grimm. Even
fear
the master himself
will bring the Lord Grimm. Perhaps fear of this scale will finally get him waking up. Although, I wager he's already aware of Cinder's plan. What do you think?
Well, if we're arguing he's a god, he has to have some...
clairvoyance?
Clairvoyance.
Especially with human agents.
Although it could be like the Sith in Star Wars. It clouds the closer you get to the Sith. In this case, it will be the good side, De Rosa. It occludes his vision. That would allow such a long life for the whole of the soul to live for so long if his vision is clouded around that person, and that would require his human agents to do actual field work to find it out.
Yeah, that's right. And because
if he could find out just by thinking, he would easily kill them.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's potentially why it is hard to find DeRosa's soul. That might be the reason. It might not be the reason. It might be just a matter of process of elimination. Who knows? But while we're on the topic of DeRosa and Lord Grimm, as we wrap up with that mostly compiles what our views of this most recent episode and what might be coming up means. Just address some of the debate that's been coming up in our comment sections. Many people claiming that, what if Raven is Lord Grimm? What if Cinder is Lord Grimm?
What if Ozpin's Lord Grimm?
What if Ozpin's Lord Grimm? What if Jen Taylor, the narrator of RWBY, is Lord Grimm?
Or DeRosa. Or Summer.
Or Summer. Like, well, Jen could be anyone.
Yeah.
But, alright. Serious time? We don't agree.
Actually, what we call
the Jen Taylorists is the Jen Taylorists possible. It's entirely possible, but we definitely disagree with the idea that Lord Grimm is someone we've seen so far. It doesn't seem right, especially if Raven is Lord Grimm. The fact that she was on the team with the very person carrying DeRosa's soul, that she must have sensed a disturbance in the Force, and for some reason, even though she's Lord Grimm, got distracted by Tai Yang and decided that having children was a good idea. And then, also on top of that, how do you explain Crow? So they have the same last name. We can presume that they're siblings. So how do you explain that if Raven is Lord Grimm and has been in existence for all time? It just doesn't make sense. And if we're arguing Cinder, it really does change what her motivations must be. It sort of makes, I don't know, in my opinion, less interesting. Because if her intention on attacking the tournament is all about carrying out this cycle of punishment once over again, I don't know, it's not as interesting as someone who's going on this crusade to get revenge on Lord Grimm, especially given the song Sacrifice, which I think we agree is sung from Cinder's perspective. And it seems to be someone with a tale of past suffering, who's seen the grim reality, the grim reality, think of that, and has been tempted by the darkness but refused it. Seeing that the human governments have been, keeping this under wraps and allowing people to die and suffer, especially huntsmen and huntresses, because they're the ones on the front lines, that she wants to undo the cycle, and she doesn't believe that they should fear Lord Grimm. And she's probably smart enough to think of a very good way to try to destroy him. And as for Ozpin, he has been with RWBY for some time. If he's Lord Grimm, don't you think he would have, I don't know, killed her? Or something like that, or tried to retrieve the soul, or something like that? It just doesn't seem to add up with what we have come up with would be Lord Grimm's intentions, his desires, his goals. Just don't line up with any of these characters. That's why we think that Lord Grimm is definitely not someone we've seen so far. Potentially heard. Potentially, as one commenter said, and I don't recall your name, but kudos to you, that Lord Grimm may be the very first voice we heard in this series and we just never knew it.
I think that was Blair M. Was that Blair M?
It might have been Blair M. Although Blair M was the one we quoted about the gender thing. Oh, no, yeah, it was Blair M, because I remember Blair M saying, but we could have heard her voice. So that was one of the lines in the first paragraph. Thanks once again for your comment. Thanks to all our commenters for getting involved with this. But yes, we don't particularly agree with the whole theory that Lord Grimm is a character that we have seen. We still claim that Raven is potentially an agent, mostly because she seemed to be, a pretty good team Stark, before whatever happened to her. And it seems that, as Ozpin says, as long as we, don't give in to the darkness, it seems that giving into the darkness is what happened to Raven, and that's why she abandoned her family. And it may be the very reason why Crow doesn't talk about her. And it may be the reason why he wears that slanted cross as a necklace. He's carrying the burden of the fact that someone very close in his family has given into the very thing that they're fighting against. And that she's potentially an enemy that they've faced before. And as one theory, maybe Raven is the one who killed Summer. Maybe after discovering that Summer was indeed the one, she came back to kill her on a mission. But after discovering that she didn't have it, she just left again. Maybe that's another reason why Crow refuses to talk about her.
Yeah, but it'd be
heavy stuff.
Yeah, just like right here on this picture. This is the my sister.
Mm.
Yeah, she's the one that killed your mothers.
Yeah, the one you both loved and remembered.
Yeah.
We don't talk about her.
We don't talk about her. We don't even show her face.
Yeah. And, yeah, so that's it for our review of episode 5. We hope to continue to do these little podcast reviews of each new episode. We're getting really excited as this volume progresses, that more of what it's pumping out seem to be a little more in line with what we think. And just as a note, earlier we were talking about Aiden's potentially being what Ozpin said. The other word, as we said, was maiden. What is a maiden? A young virgin girl. So are guardians always girls? Or young girls for that matter? Or then, on another point, let's bring some little pagan religion into this. What is the most prime sacrifice? A young virgin girl. It's possible that a guardian is not only meant to be there to protect human society, but potentially to be sacrificed for the good of it. It's like a double-edged sword. Pyrrha might not know that. Again, this is why we don't think the future of Pyrrha is very bright. But it might, if something happens to Pyrrha, it might be the thing that causes Jean to finally realize who he is. And as we know, he does have a secret symbol under his chest piece. It might be what causes that to be revealed. It might cause his semblance to be revealed. And because we know that they must have strong feelings for one another, it might be the only thing that causes his character to develop that far.
Maybe he might, what's the word? Bring up the mantle? Grab the mantle?
Yeah, he might take her place in order to achieve that. And he might become protected to RWBY after discovering the truth. But as we said, only time will tell, and stay tuned for the next episode because it looks like it's going to be releasing potentially some of the beginning things that might either confirm or deny our theory. So stay tuned to our programming, and we're going to hopefully be hijacking your stream a little more in the future. This will potentially be the last video we pump out this week, but next week we will hopefully have the new trailers video and potentially new factions video. I'm looking forward to us addressing Ironwood and Atlas. We've got a few ideas what to go with there, but Red Trailer, it's a lot more significant than you think. It's actually got a ton of hints. And if Monty is a smart man, and we think that he was, that Red Trailer actually did have a lot of Easter eggs, and there was a commenter in our original theory video, Grace Phoenix, who pointed out that Monty did reference that there were some big important spoilers in Red Trailer. We don't know what they are yet, but stay tuned. We have ideas. So keep with us. Finite Unlimited is not going anywhere. We're not giving up on this theory yet. So stay with us and keep this theory boat afloat. Until next time, I am the narrator.
I am the editor.
And we are Finite Unlimited. We are Legion. For we are many. We have no idea exactly how many there are of us, but it keeps changing. So
we are one, and we are many.
That's right. Until next time. We return you to normal programming. Get in there. Close up!
It is too late to leave your location. Seek shelter. Now. Seek a place. Attack in progress. Attack in progress. Attack in progress. Attack in progress.